The text message glowed on my phone screen as I sat in my penthouse office overlooking Manhattan's financial district. The Plaza Hotel. 7 p.m. Family only. No failures allowed. My stepmother Diana's last dig was particularly ironic, considering I was currently signing paperwork to acquire my fourth Fortune 500 company this year. But of course she didn't know that. None of them did. To my family I was still Alexandra Foster, the disappointment who'd walked away from the family business 5 years ago. The failure who'd refused to learn the ropes under my younger half-brother Tyler's supervision. The embarrassment who supposedly struggled to make ends meet with my consulting business. If they only knew that Foster Consulting was actually a front for Foster Global Enterprises, one of the most successful private equity firms in the world. My real office occupied the top 3 floors of a building I owned, while the small storefront office they mocked was just for show. Miss Foster. My assistant Michael's voice came through the intercom. The Harrison Enterprises acquisition papers are ready for your review. Ah yes, Harrison Enterprises, my father's company. The crown jewel of his business empire, now teetering on the brink of bankruptcy thanks to my half-brother's mismanagement. They didn't know it yet, but by tomorrow morning they'd be working for me. Send them in, I replied, straightening my Armani blazer. The Harrison deal had taken months of careful maneuvering through shell companies and proxy buyers. No one, not even their board members, knew that Foster Global was behind the acquisition. Michael entered with a thick folder. Their CFO called again. They're getting desperate for the capital injection. I'm sure they are, I smiled, thinking of Tyler's recent mistakes. His reckless expansions and failed ventures had left Harrison Enterprises vulnerable, perfect for a takeover. Has my father tried reaching out directly? 3 times today. He still thinks he's dealing with Wong Industries in Beijing. Another text buzzed on my phone, this time from Tyler. Don't embarrass us by showing up tonight. Dad doesn't need any reminders of failure on his 60th birthday. I picked up my Mont Blanc pen, the one my mother had given me before she died. Before Diana had convinced my father that his firstborn daughter wasn't cutthroat enough for business. Before Tyler had been groomed to take over despite his obvious incompetence. Send the final verification to our lawyers, I told Michael. And make sure the press release is ready for tomorrow morning. Already done. Though you might want to see this first. He handed me a tablet displaying Harrison Enterprises' latest financial report. The numbers were even worse than I'd expected. They've been hiding losses, I noted, scanning the documents. Creative accounting can't save them now. Tyler authorized some questionable transactions last quarter, Michael confirmed. The SEC would be very interested. I leaned back in my chair looking out at the city skyline. 5 years ago, I'd sat in my father's office as he explained why Tyler would be taking over the company instead of me. Business requires a certain ruthlessness, he'd said. You're too soft, too concerned with ethics and sustainability. Now my soft approach had built an empire larger than he'd ever imagined, while his precious heir had driven their company to the edge of ruin. My phone rang, the caller ID showing Harrison Enterprises General Counsel. Probably another desperate attempt to speed up the acquisition they thought was coming from China. If they only knew the papers requiring their new CEO's signature were sitting on their old CEO's daughter's desk. Should I have the car brought around? Michael asked. For the birthday party? I looked at Diana's text again. And no failures allowed. No, I smiled, picking up the acquisition papers. I think I'll let them enjoy their last few hours of control. Tomorrow will be dramatic enough. The Plaza Hotel's ballroom would be filled with New York's business elite, all wondering about Harrison Enterprises' mysterious buyer. My father would be putting on a brave face, pretending everything was fine. Tyler would be bragging about deals he'd never close. And Diana would be thanking God that the failure daughter wasn't there to embarrass them. Though, I added, make sure our PR team is ready. Tomorrow's headlines should be interesting. Michael nodded, understanding perfectly. We'd played this game before with other acquisitions, but this one was personal. This one was about showing them exactly what kind of business person I'd become. I signed the final paper with a flourish, my mother's pen leaving a perfect signature, soon to be the most important signature in Harrison Enterprises history. Happy birthday, Dad, I whispered to the empty office. Wait until you see what your failure daughter got you. The next morning dawned with the kind of pristine clarity that seemed perfect for shattering illusions. I sat in my real office, watching multiple screens display various financial news channels. The Harrison Enterprises acquisition was about to become public, and the business world was already buzzing with speculation. Breaking news. Mystery buyer acquires Harrison Enterprises. Harrison family loses control. Unknown CEO takes helm. Wall Street stunned by overnight takeover. My phone had been ringing nonstop since 6 a.m. First Tyler, then Diana, and finally my father, all desperately trying to reach the mysterious new owner. Their voicemails grew increasingly panicked as the morning wore on. Miss Foster, Michael entered with my morning coffee. The Harrison family has arrived in the lobby. All of them. I checked the security feeds. Sure enough, there they were, my father looking disheveled, Tyler practically shouting at the reception desk, and Diana trying to maintain her usual air of superiority despite the obvious panic in her eyes. How did they find out this was Foster Global's building? I asked, though I already suspected the answer. They didn't, Michael smiled. They think this is Wong Industries' New York office. Apparently, they've been trying every possible connection to reach their mystery buyer. I took a sip of coffee, savoring the moment. Let them wait 10 minutes. Then bring them up. The screens showed the market's reaction to the news. Harrison Enterprises stock was soaring on speculation about the new ownership. Financial analysts were praising the mysterious buyer's timing and strategy. My father's face appeared on CNBC as reporters ambushed him outside his office earlier that morning. Mr. Harrison, any comment on the takeover? Who's behind the acquisition? Is it true your son's mismanagement led to this? Diana's text from last night still sat on my phone. And no failures allowed. Next to it was Tyler's. Don't embarrass us by showing up tonight. They're getting agitated, Michael noted, watching the lobby feed. Tyler just threatened to call his lawyers. He doesn't have lawyers anymore, I reminded him. He has our lawyers. He just doesn't know it yet. I stood up, straightening my custom Versace suit. The same one I'd worn while signing the acquisition papers. Send them up. The private elevator opened directly into my office suite. The look on their faces as they stepped out was everything I'd imagined and more. What is this? My father stammered, taking in the vast space with its commanding view of Manhattan. Where's Mr. Wong? There is no Mr. Wong, I replied calmly from behind my desk. There never was. Tyler's face reddened. This is impossible. You run a small consulting firm. Actually, I gestured to the Foster Global logo behind me. I run one of the largest private equity firms in the world. The consulting business was just a cover. Diana grabbed my father's arm for support. You can't be. The acquisition was completed last night, I confirmed, pulling out the signed papers. Harrison Enterprises is now a subsidiary of Foster Global Enterprises. And I smiled directly at Tyler, am your new CEO. The silence that followed was deafening. My father sank into one of the visitor chairs, looking suddenly old. Tyler started pacing, running his hands through his hair in agitation. Only Diana remained frozen in place, her perfectly maintained facade finally cracking. How? My father whispered. Where did you get the resources, the expertise? Remember when you said I was too soft for business? I pressed a button, bringing up displays of Foster Global's portfolio. While you were forcing Tyler into a role he couldn't handle, I was building something bigger. Something better. The screens showed my company's true scope. Dozens of successful acquisitions, revolutionary sustainable business practices, record-breaking profits achieved without the cutthroat tactics they'd always insisted were necessary. Every time you mocked my small consulting firm, I was actually closing billion-dollar deals. While Tyler was running Harrison Enterprises into the ground, I was building an empire. You can't do this to family, Tyler protested weakly. Family. I stood up slowly. Like when you convinced Dad to pass me over for promotion. When Diana had my office cleaned out while I was at Mom's funeral. When you all banned me from Dad's birthday for being a failure? My phone buzzed, the Wall Street Journal requesting comment on the acquisition. Perfect timing. The board meeting starts in an hour, I informed them. That's when I'll announce the changes. Tyler, you'll be transitioned to a non-executive role. Dad, you can keep your office, but decisions will go through me. And if we refuse? Diana found her voice at last. I smiled, pressing another button. The screens filled with documentation of Tyler's questionable dealings, the hidden losses, the SEC violations waiting to be exposed. Then I'll have no choice but to alert the relevant authorities about certain irregularities in the company's recent operations. The board meeting was everything I'd anticipated and more. Seated at the head of Harrison Enterprises' conference table, my father's old seat, I watched as decades of patriarchal business practices crumbled in real time. As your new CEO, I addressed the stunned board members, I'll be implementing immediate changes. First, we'll be conducting a full audit of all operations with particular focus on environmental impact and worker conditions. Tyler, relegated to a seat near the door, visibly flinched. He knew what the audit would reveal: the corners he'd cut, the safety regulations he'd ignored, the environmental violations he'd hidden. Second, I continued, bringing up detailed presentations on the screens, Harrison Enterprises will be transitioning to sustainable practices across all divisions. Our goal is carbon neutrality within 18 months. That's impossible, one of my father's old friends on the board protested. The costs would be astronomical. Actually, I pulled up Foster Global's financial projections. Our analysis shows it will increase profitability by 40% within 2 years. Something you might have realized if you'd bothered to read my proposals 5 years ago. My father, sitting silently in his new advisory position, couldn't meet my eyes. He remembered those proposals, the ones he'd dismissed as naive and impractical. Furthermore, I nodded to Michael, who distributed new folders, we'll be implementing comprehensive worker benefits, increased wages, improved healthcare, paid family leave, and educational assistance programs. Diana, who'd insisted on attending, actually gasped. You'll bankrupt the company with these bleeding heart policies. Interesting choice of words, I remarked, pulling up Foster Global's track record. These same policies helped my bleeding heart build a company 10 times larger than Harrison Enterprises. While you were calling me a failure, I was proving that ethical business can be incredibly profitable. The screens displayed Foster Global's success metrics: record-breaking profits, industry-leading employee retention rates, environmental awards, and innovation patents that had transformed entire sectors. But what about our existing contracts? Another board member asked nervously. All being reviewed, I replied. Particularly the ones involving overseas labor and environmental variances. We'll be renegotiating to ensure compliance with international standards. Tyler stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. You can't just come in here and dash. Actually, I cut him off coolly. Would you like me to display the documents detailing your recent creative accounting practices? Or should we discuss the safety violations at the Milwaukee factory? He sat down heavily, face pale. My phone buzzed with another message. The press was gathering in the lobby for my first public appearance as CEO. The business world was eager to meet the mysterious entrepreneur who'd orchestrated the year's biggest acquisition. One final announcement, I said, standing. Harrison Enterprises will be establishing a foundation for women in business. Full scholarships, mentorship programs, and startup funding, ensuring that no other talented woman is told she's too soft for success. My father finally spoke, his voice rough. Your mother. She always said you saw business differently. She was right, I agreed. She also said true success isn't measured by how much you take but by how much you give back. Something this company forgot somewhere along the way. The meeting concluded with a detailed timeline for the transitions. As the board members filed out, many already adapting to the new power structure, I stayed behind with my family. You could have told us, Diana said quietly. About Foster Global. Like you told me about changing Mom's inheritance? Or banning me from family events? Tyler interjected. We thought we were protecting the company dash. No, I cut him off. You thought you were protecting yourselves. The company needed exactly what I offered 5 years ago: innovation, sustainability, and ethical leadership. My father stood slowly. I was wrong, he admitted. About everything. Yes, you were. I gathered my things, preparing for the press conference. But now you have a chance to learn from someone you once called a failure. As I headed for the door, Diana called out, Will you be coming to family dinners now? I turned back with a slight smile. No failures allowed, remember? But don't worry, you'll see plenty of me in the boardroom. The elevator ride to the lobby gave me a moment to reflect. In a few minutes I would step into the spotlight, revealing myself as the business world's newest power player. The press would love the story. The underestimated daughter who built an empire while her family wasn't looking. But more importantly, I would show every young woman watching that success doesn't require sacrificing ethics. That being too soft might actually be the greatest strength of all. The lobby doors opened to a sea of cameras and reporters. Above them, the Harrison Enterprises sign was already being updated with the Foster Global logo. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from my assistant. Your mother's foundation is ready to launch. And the Plaza Hotel called, they're hoping you'll still attend tonight's birthday celebration. I smiled, stepping forward to face the cameras. Some birthday presents, after all, are better delivered in person. Good morning, I addressed the waiting press. I'm Alexandra Foster, CEO of Foster Global Enterprises and the new head of Harrison Enterprises. Let me tell you about our vision for the future. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting it right.